I'd like to introduce the speakers just once again real quickly. Chris Bonnello, Jaylynn Prince, Dr. Chris Wenn. Sorry, I see I'm messing up already. I've had a long night. Dr. Wenn Lawson, pardon me, as well as Kerrie Nelson. Let's give them a round of applause, please. There are our superstars and our heroes, just like every single one of our kids. So, first of all, again, let me just say, thank you for allowing me to be part of the journey. As a newcomer to Kolkata, sir, I salute you. I salute Namita ma'am, as well as you, sir, because thank you so much. But honestly speaking, there has never been, I'm a child psychiatrist for what, 20 years now? There's never been a free conference to this degree, ever. And not only that, it is online. You can see all of these great people. I know everybody's sensory overload, but I get a little hyped and emotional. So I will speak from the heart. There is no one that has done this. Let me repeat again. No one who has done this from the bottom of their heart like the Somani. So I want to reiterate that. So also, the message is an important one. The message that we are about to give is of advocacy. It's a very touchy subject. I get, again, my heartstrings get tugged because they say, as a society, we must protect those that are the most vulnerable to us. That might define us as a society. So, how do you protect? Do you put them in an institution? My friend, Stephen Shore, who's not here today, who's a very strong advocate, said the only institution he belongs in is an institution of higher learning. Just remember that. Because we can't contain people for having different behaviors. We can accept, we can educate, we can empower, but we can't contain it. There's nothing to contain. So why do I say this? We have all these awesome self-advocates. I know, Chris, you don't like the word, but we have, and when, I don't know if you like the word, but we have self-advocates. That means people that are helping others that are on the spectrum because they are on the spectrum, right? But have you noticed one thing? Have I seen any from India here? Have I seen anyone from West Bengal? Why is that? Just ask yourself that question. We must end the stigma now. Like my friend Nish said, it's time. It's been time. It's time. So either we do it or we don't. But I want to tell you, leave you with this, and then we're going to start. We have the highest suicide rate in the world from age 15 to 30. When are we going to stop being embarrassed? When are we going to stop being ashamed? Until there's nobody left. 10% is the Indian paradigm, I mean the Indian statistics of suicide rate in the nation. 15% in West Bengal. Age 15 to 30, we have the highest in the world. That's the creme de la creme. Can you imagine? So when will we end the stigma? When it's too late, when we have no legacy left. It's this movement that's got me so pumped, though. I'm being honest with you guys. If everybody did not come together and share their amazing ideas, their amazing opinions, experts for all over the world, we go home and sometimes forget. But don't forget. Keep this going. This is going to be a thing. In 5 years, this building will be up and running. And it'll be the best center that we have ever seen in the world. And I really, truly believe that. If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be sitting here for 3 days. I really invested a lot of time in here because I believe in it. I believe in this project. Okay, so can we cue up the video without much further ado? I know we have 30 minutes, so I want to play Jaylynn Prince's Madison House video. She's done amazing things in America, so we'd like to play the video, please.
It can be difficult to notice something, even when it's in plain sight. Being aware of what is hidden from view is even more challenging. In the United States, a child with autism becomes an adult with autism every 10 minutes. Autism is a lifelong developmental disability that alters the way one perceives, interacts with, and relates to the world around them. Provided with the right tools, individuals with autism learn how to operate and succeed in an otherwise confusing environment. But at age 21, our friends lose access to the supports that help them navigate and make sense of their world. This year alone, 50,000 children with autism will transition into adulthood. That's enough people to fill over 900 school buses, 18 Carnegie Halls, 15 Titanic-sized ships, or the entire Dodgers Stadium. Add this to the existing community of autistic adults, and it would replace the entire population of Chicago, or the entire state of Kansas, and it has a direct impact on millions more. Due to insufficient social support, these adults face inadequate housing, employment, healthcare, education, and community. Their lives often go unnoticed and neglected, which produces an annual $300 billion economic burden and robs us all of the value our friends have to add. That is why Madison House Autism Foundation needs your help. We work tirelessly to raise the visibility of adults on the spectrum and the lifespan challenges they face, and facilitate the expansion of opportunities in housing, employment, education, and adequate health care in communities across the country. These valuable adults have gone unnoticed for too long, and the clock is ticking. Join Madison House Autism Foundation today and discover how you can learn more, give support, and take action to ensure a brighter future for our friends with autism.
And with that, I'd like to introduce one of my heroes, Jaylynn. So go ahead, please. Can you talk about some of the challenges that took place in making such a remarkable difference in the autism community?
Well, I've had a wonderfully informant person in my family that has brought me into this area, and that is our son Madison, who is 29 years of age. He has been my teacher. I am not a self-advocate. I am the advocate that happens to be called a mother bear. And often parents step into a role, and we were fortunate enough to be in a position where we established a foundation working on the issues of autism of those over the age of 21, because that's when in the United States that services for our population end, and there are very few services that exist. And we wanted to describe to the nation what autism after 21 looked like, and that's why we have this brief film right here that we were unable to see the other day. Thank you so much for sharing it.
No, my pleasure. So for the whole panel, you can start, Jaylynn. What would be the most effective way to inform and educate? Because we really need that.
We need to talk, we need to make certain that we engage with the community. One of the efforts that we are doing is that we're going toward our community and thought leaders right now, and we're going to senators, congressmen, mayors, governors, county councils, and bringing them together to inform them. Because we have found that parents understand, caregivers understand what the challenges happen to be, but until we can make the rest of the community look at the involvement with the individuals with autism, the adults with autism, that's acceptable and it is the right thing to do and the community benefits. Then we have things coming from the top because we've got parents and advocates coming from another direction, and hopefully we'll fill in the gap because it's going to take our entire community to make a difference in the lives of individuals living with autism.
Thank you so much, Jaylynn. Really, really informative. Dr. Wenn, can we ask you the same question? What would be the most effective way to inform and educate?
I really think it should be nothing about us without us, so we should be sharing, listening, finding ways to communicate with those of us on the spectrum, and people would benefit by getting to know us. It's only by getting to know us that we break down the barriers that make it difficult to relate to us. So, and if people think just because somebody might not talk that they can't share. That's a misconception. We need to be finding ways to communicate and to relate and listen, and then put those things that we learn from each other into practice.
Thank you so much. Kerrie, same question. You know, being a special educator as yourself, and what would you think would be the most effective way to inform and educate what you're trying to?
So the Giant Step story is a story of parent advocacy. And if I sort of go back, it started off with 6 parents who simply had a dream to start a school, so very similar to what is happening here today. And they took that and actually built a school, and have since built 2 schools. And they built it on the fact, they built it on a premise that they invited everybody into that school, and that everybody was committed to building and maintaining the momentum of the school. So as an example of that, this parent body, we have about 110 parents. This year they raised $5.5 million, which is an extraordinary amount of money. So they are wholly committed to building that community and that school, and we actually work with the parents so that they become the best advocate that they can be. In fact, our parent body, they've often described themselves as mosquitoes in the political arena, where they're continually just biting and creating a little itch so that politicians will eventually learn that they've got to scratch it and have a look at what's going on. And oftentimes that means dollars coming towards the school or the foundation or the organisation. So we do work with parents to make sure that they continually talk about it with friends, talk about it locally, talk about it federally, and continue to engage. And that has brought great results over time. And in fact, that next group of parents built the school in Melbourne only 3 years ago using that exact same strategy. So it is all very, very possible. And it really did start off with those parents collecting together, and then, you know, that old movie, Field of Dreams, you know, build it and they will come. Well, they kind of built the connectivity, and from that grew this most sort of powerful momentum to actually get things started. So it really did start with 6 parents. That was all it actually took. And now it's an organisation that you know, has a budget of $10, $15 million every year, but the parents fundraise for that. And so our parents are so terribly committed, and we're so terribly accountable to our parents, that it creates this wonderful sense of integration. So that's how we have done it.
Yes.
It's just one example, one
very,
tiny example.
Yeah, very, very amazing. Again, we're going to get into the budget and how you develop that 50 million, is it 50? 5 million, sorry. 5 million. That's still no joke. $5 million budget that you collect from donations, right? We're going to get into that later. Chris, same question to you. What would be the most effective way to inform and educate?
Well, unsurprisingly, my answer is going to be quite similar to Wen's. Listen to autistic people, regardless of how they communicate. Make sure that what they're expressing is being heard, being understood. And I think society, like all societies, have a responsibility to create a kind of environment where autism can be talked about openly and non-judgmentally, so the autistic person doesn't have to approach the subject like, I've got this really deep, dark secret to tell you, but I'm autistic. Instead of that, just create an environment where the person feels comfortable just saying, yeah, I'm autistic. And I think there's a lot of responsibility attached to that, both on the part of society to create that environment and among autistic people as well, to be compassionate in answering people who haven't had much exposure to autism. I often say there's a huge difference between an ignorant person and an uninformed person. For example, I had a friend of mine some years ago who asked me a question, and I am the only autistic person that she's aware of knowing, and she said, Chris, I just learned that there are some autistic people out there who can't talk. Is that true? And now, if I'd have answered that with, well, what kind of stupid question is that, then do you think she'd have asked me another question about autism? No. So I think recognize when someone is trying to learn that is the complete literal opposite of ignorance. And if someone is completely new to autism, we need to answer in a compassionate way and, again, create that environment where people feel very happy and very comfortable talking about autism in a compassionate, non-judgmental way.
Thank you. Remarkable. May I ask you to tell me your story about advocacy and how you had the courage to tell your story? Because you have a very personable story. We spoke about it last night, where you actually have generations of family members that you deal with that are on the spectrum, and you had the courage to tell me that last night, as well as you have the courage to tell people on a daily basis. So can you go ahead and tell me?
I'm not sure that it's courage.
Oh.
It's probably just every opportunity I have, I will share. I'm not ashamed of being autistic. I'm very proud of who I am, and that's just music. That's just music somewhere.
I think it's the side.
Do we just have to talk anyway?
I know, it's hard, right?
Okay.
If you can speak loud, like put the mic closer to your...
Okay. So I was originally diagnosed as being intellectually disabled, and I didn't speak till I was closer to the age of 5. And I had the first year at school was a nightmare, and they kept me home and tried sending me back again. So the expectation on my life wasn't high. Nobody expected very much of me. So if you say to me, there's something I can't do, one of the first things I feel is to show you that I can.
Right.
And following through with that to be educated with school and go to university to earn a right to speak, because professionals tend not to listen unless you're one of them. So I worked hard to get a PhD and earn that right to publish and to talk about autism and to be a researcher so that I can talk at that level with other researchers, a teacher, so I can talk to teachers, a psychologist. Thank you.
Yes.
I turned it off.
You know why I was smiling? Can you give him a clap, please? Because I know he has sensory overload, and so for him to speak while the music was going on is something that is amazing. So let's give him a clap, please. Because,
Oh, more sensory stuff.
yeah,
I have to teach
that is something
you.
that we don't see.
I have
go,
to
the
teach
silent
you
claps.
how to flap like this.
There you go.
This is so much nicer. And you know, when we do this,
I'm really proud.
We're
That's amazing.
honoring the deaf community, because this is what deaf community will do. And it's a better way in lots of respects. I don't mind clapping or being clapped, but it does kind of hurt at times. So,
Sure.
So yeah, it's not courage so much for me as it's a responsibility I felt from a very young age to prove to people what I wanted to share with them, what I could do, and what other autistic people can do. My wife's autistic. I have autistic children and autistic grandchildren, and it's like keep it in the family because autism is not something to be ashamed of. Autism is something we should be talking about and finding dignity and strengths of people within, just like any other human. Yeah,
Thank you, Wenn. You're teaching me every day, seriously, honestly. Yeah, courage was probably a misnomer, but I really want to tell you like how much I respect you, and just what you did today was amazing. So, Chris, how about the same question to you?
Repeat the question, please.
Yes. Can you tell me about your story of advocacy and having the gumption to tell your story?
Yeah, well, having grown up believing that I was the weird kid, and actually the specific wording on a report written about me when I was 10, actual quotes from a professional child psychiatrist, Christopher has a slightly odd personality. Yeah, apparently you could write that in 1995 in official reports, but I found out at the age of 24 that I was actually autistic, and I got the diagnosis at the age of 25. I then kept it a fairly closely guarded secret for the next 4 years because, well, I'll be honest, for the first part of it, I felt that autism was a synonym for everything that is wrong with me, that autism meant the bad things about me. And I went on my own personal journey before realizing that actually autism gives me my strengths, not just my weaknesses, and it gives me my personality. influences how I experience the world, and actually I think I experience the world in a fairly good way, thank you very much. So after I kind of made peace with it, I left teaching because I had a career in primary school teaching. I'm a special needs tutor now, but after I left teaching, there was this gap between the two where I realised I've not got anyone to build up anymore. I mean, it was great teaching, building up young people, but it's just me job searching at home now. You know what? I'm going to tell the whole internet I'm autistic, see what happens. Went slightly well, 4 years and 96,000 Facebook followers later, but I had no idea that it was going to be received like that.
How many followers do you have?
96,000.
Huh?
96.
96,000 followers,
Yeah.
guys. Can you imagine?
But when I see that, I don't see it as something to say, oh, well done, Chris, you've done so well. I see it as a reflection of how much demand there is out there for people who want to learn about autism, especially from an autistic person's perspective. So I'm very happy to have some kind of input in the autism awareness acceptance discussion that's taken off these last few years. But I didn't know it was going to go that way. I mean, I was extremely nervous opening up about my autism to start with, and I've had plenty of discussions here with people who have gone into quite a bit of depth about the problems with discussing autism in Indian society and particular challenges here. That there aren't as many challenges in Britain to opening up about your autism, but I was still quite afraid of it because from my perspective it was completely new. I'd never done it before, and I'm very glad that there is actually such a demand for people who want to learn about autism and so many people who are willing to listen.
Thank you. So the next questions are for Jaylynn and Kerrie. So I want to know about how you raise so much money for your causes. Like, I kind of know your answer, but I'd like you to tell whoever wants to start first.
At Giant Steps, I actually didn't raise the money, but we stood in the background and supported parents to actually go out there and do it. And they raised money through all sorts of events. They ran a ball, they did a bike ride, we've done a swim, we've done high teas, you name it, we do it every year. And we build it up and we support parents to have a go at doing those things. And it creates this sort of wonderful sense of community, it broadens the community. And it's just extraordinary how many people actually do want to help and understand and give to the organisation. And part of that is because the organisation also is giving back to their children. So there's a success story there. And, you know, you build success on success. It started off very small and it grew. So in its infancy, it was raising $250,000. Now it's raising $5 million a year, plus some government funding that comes along with it. But it is all and everything. In our parent body, we don't say, golly gosh, you've got to raise about $50,000 a year. We actually don't do that. What we say is that we want commitment to, you know, sort of maintain that momentum, to maintain that creative, that dynamic effort there. So parents give all that they possibly can in terms of their efforts, but some of them don't necessarily have the skills or abilities to make that much money, but can partner with somebody. So it creates this very, very strong, very integrated community. And it's amazing. And it really simply is 110 parents raising that amount of money. And it is all extraordinarily possible. And it started off very, very small. Our next event is through the Melbourne School. And again, that started off with one parent who moved from Sydney to Melbourne, where there was no resource down there for her child, a young man with very high support needs. And she's just started, she just began. And it was really interesting that in both of these examples, we had a place. So once we had an actual building where we met, suddenly we started to gain momentum. So that idea of that meeting place, that coming together, that sharing of experience, that knowing that, you know, the person next to you has that shared experience as well, created a level of strength within the parent body, and they could get out there and actually do it. So I certainly encourage you to do that. And you know, it really is just lots and lots of little pebbles going out and rippling along, and they do connect up. So
Wow.
it is absolutely possible to do that. And it started off with 6 parents. That was
But
all it took.
now it's the parents raised $5 million.
$5 million was, and I think our
Year.
budget for 2019 will be about 5.65.
Wow, amazing. Thank
Yeah.
you, Kerrie. You want to answer that question, Jaylynn?
We've had a slightly different situation because there was no other organization like ours and with the goal that we had in the United States, and that was to be a repository and collect information and spread the word about adult autism. And in the beginning, we were able to finance the preliminary component to it ourselves. And we were a foundation, a 501c3, which means it is charitable, and it was from the beginning. But we saw that the need was so huge, and we had to change from a private foundation where we could do some of the financing to get things started. And we have changed to a public foundation, which means we are obligated now to have funding from around the community, that one family could not carry it. And we have had other things that have come our direction that have been wonderful as far as being a gift, but at the same time, there is a huge financial responsibility for the facilities. One of the locations that we have is a 400-acre farm. And we were gifted the equity, but we still have a large mortgage. And there is one other challenge with this, is that in the United States, people are still just starting to catch on to the idea that autistic children grow to be autistic adults. And it has been challenging to inform a population to be able to say, not only do people exist, but please come with us and help support us. And we're having very nice things happening along the way. I wish it happened a little bit faster because we could do even more programming. But there is progress being made, and we see the dial. And it's moving, and but this rests on the shoulders of the community as well, because it is a public charity.
Thank you so much. So eloquent. So this is a question for the whole panel. What would you want the world to know about you, your son, or your students? So you want to start, Chris?
I suppose the main thing is that we get to be individuals as well. The autistic population is not just one personality in lots of different bodies. We get to be people in our own right. We have our own life experience, we have our own perspectives, and what works for one of us isn't necessarily going to work for all of us. And I suppose after that, the next important thing is, kind of goes back to a previous answer of mine, listen to autistic people. When trying to accommodate an autistic person, ask them what they want. Make sure that any accommodation is on their terms, is shared with them, rather than just making an assumption because, oh, yeah, I had a bit of autism training 5 years ago, or I knew a pupil with autism somewhere else. Talk to the actual autistic person and ask them, what do you want? How can I accommodate you? What would help you?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can we get a round of applause for Chris, please?
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
The thing that I would like people to know is that Madison is of value, and Madison is an incredible individual. And I will share something with you that I haven't really shared publicly. I have been collecting artwork that he has been doing for the last almost 15 years. We have over 20,000 images. Now, some of these happen to be squiggles, and some of them happen to be squares and circles, but put in interesting patterns, and then going on into some very complex, very interesting images. And I have made certain that I have not had art instruction for Madison, because one thing I didn't want to have is people showing how you draw a circle, and if you shade it in a particular way, it looks like it's round. I wanted him to take what the essence of who he is and put down on a paper or canvas what it was that he saw and what he felt. So for the past 16 years, we have been documenting his point of view through art, and he's been facilitated in doing this, but there is a repository there that I hope we can continue with, that visually we may have some cues about why things can happen in clusters or patterns. And I don't know of any study quite like this, but it's been very interesting, and he's, I think, going to inform the world about an aspect of autism that people are not expecting.
Thank you. Amazing. All right, Wenn?
Okay, just to echo all the things we've been hearing over the last 3 days, really, which is to respect and value. When you value a child and you place respect in that relationship, that child will respond so much better than if you don't. So I think that if you value us as you get to know us and work with us, you'll be surprised at just what we can give back to our communities. It's really hard to compete with the music. It's really hard to compete with the lights and to think positively, but please, invest in us. Thank you.
Thank you, Wenn. Interesting fact about Wenn, he's also a therapist and a clinician, and he deals with people that come in with suicidality. So he actually counsels as well. I found that about amazing. So thank you, Wenn, for your service. Kerrie, please.
So the last thing that I would like to take away is that idea of single focus, and I certainly have taken that from both Wenn and Chris, and I think that you do need, and I certainly have over my career had a very single focus of building services that are going to support young people to realise their opportunity. And so I do encourage you as parents to become single focused and really have a go at doing that. And it does take time, but in the end you really can create sort of marvellous opportunities and marvellous communities and marvellous services for your young children and your young adults and older adults, of course. So I certainly encourage you to do that, because it is very possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Kerrie. Let's get a round. Oh, let's get a silent clap. Thank you. So with that, I will say bye to you guys, but I want to say it in a proper way. Like, you guys, everybody that's involved with IAC, I love you guys, seriously.